What if the very thing most men fear with age is actually what makes them irresistible? Quiet confidence is one of the rarest qualities a man can develop, and it becomes even more powerful with age. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention, and it doesn't try to prove anything. In fact, the defining trait of quiet confidence is that it exists without the need for validation from anyone else. A man who carries this kind of confidence doesn't walk into a room wondering who is watching him. He doesn't adjust his behavior to gain approval or try to impress people with exaggerated stories or forced charm. Instead, he moves naturally, grounded in who he is. His self-worth isn't dependent on compliments, reactions, or external recognition. He already knows his value, and that inner certainty shapes everything about his presence. When he speaks, he doesn't rush to fill silence or dominate conversations. He takes his time, choosing his words carefully, because he isn't trying to win attention. He's simply expressing himself. And because there's no desperation behind his words, people listen more closely. His voice carries weight, not because it's louder, but because it's intentional. This kind of confidence also shows in how he handles rejection or disagreement. He doesn't become defensive or insecure. He doesn't need everyone to agree with him or like him. If someone walks away, he remains steady. That emotional independence makes him incredibly attractive because it signals strength without aggression. Women, in particular, are drawn to this energy because it feels safe and real. There's no pressure to impress him, no hidden neediness beneath the surface. He's not seeking validation from them, which paradoxically makes his attention more valuable. When he chooses to engage, it feels genuine, not driven by insecurity. Quiet confidence is built over time, through experience, self-reflection, and letting go of the need to be seen a certain way. And once a man reaches that point, his presence alone begins to speak louder than anything he could say. Emotional control and a grounded presence are qualities that quietly separate a man from the noise around him. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending not to feel. It's about understanding them, managing them, and choosing how to respond instead of reacting impulsively. A man with emotional control doesn't get easily shaken by external situations. Whether things go his way or not, he maintains a steady demeanor. He doesn't raise his voice to assert dominance, nor does he withdraw out of insecurity. Instead, he remains composed, taking in what's happening before deciding how to act. That pause, that space between stimulus and response, is where his strength lies. This grounded presence is deeply felt by others. When he enters a room, there's no chaos in his energy. He's calm, centered, and fully aware of himself. He doesn't carry restless tension or emotional volatility, and because of that, people around him begin to relax. His presence becomes a stabilizing force, especially in moments where others might feel uncertain or overwhelmed. In conversations, he listens more than he reacts. He doesn't interrupt to prove a point or rush to defend himself. Even when faced with disagreement, he stays measured. His confidence allows him to hear different perspectives without feeling threatened. This level of emotional maturity creates a sense of trust because others know they won't be met with unpredictability or unnecessary drama. Women are naturally drawn to this kind of energy because it feels secure. Not in a controlling way, but in a way that allows them to express themselves freely. They don't feel judged, rushed, or emotionally pressured. Instead, they feel seen and understood. Over time, this control and grounding becomes second nature. It comes from experience, from learning when to speak and when to stay silent, when to act and when to observe. And in that balance, a man becomes someone whose presence alone communicates strength, stability, and quiet authority. A life built on purpose, not approval, is what gives a man real direction and depth. It means he no longer shapes his decisions around what others might think of him. Instead, he moves according to what feels meaningful, aligned, and true to his values. That shift changes everything: how he spends his time, how he sets his priorities, and how he shows up in the world. When a man lives for approval, he's constantly adjusting himself. He says what others want to hear, does what gains validation, and avoids anything that might bring criticism. Over time, that creates a quiet emptiness, because his life becomes a reflection of other people's expectations rather than his own truth. But a man driven by purpose operates differently. He knows what matters to him. It could be his work, his craft, his family, or a personal mission he's committed to. Whatever it is, it gives his life structure and meaning beyond surface level recognition. He doesn't need applause to stay consistent because his motivation comes from within. This internal focus makes him incredibly grounded. He doesn't chase attention, and he doesn't get easily distracted by trends or opinions. His path is his own, and that clarity gives him a quiet strength. Even when no one is watching, he continues moving forward because his actions are not tied to being seen. They're tied to being fulfilled. Women are naturally drawn to this kind of man because purpose creates stability and direction. Being around him feels different. There's no sense of him trying to impress or seek approval. Instead, there's a steady energy, a feeling that he knows where he's going. And that sense of direction becomes attractive because it shows he's not lost, not drifting, and not dependent on others to define his worth. Selective attention, instead of constant pursuit, is a powerful shift that changes how a man is perceived. It means he no longer feels the need to chase every opportunity for connection or validation. Instead, he becomes intentional with where he places his focus, his time, and his energy. A man who is constantly pursuing often gives away his attention too freely. He responds to everything, engages with everyone, and tries to keep interest alive at all costs. But in doing so, his attention loses value. It becomes predictable and sometimes even overwhelming. There's an underlying sense of urgency in his actions, as if he's afraid of losing something. In contrast, a man who practices selective attention understands that not everything deserves his energy. He observes first. He takes his time to see who aligns with him, who respects his presence, and who genuinely adds value to his life. He doesn't ignore people to play games. He simply chooses not to overinvest where it isn't reciprocated. This creates a natural sense of mystery and balance. When he gives attention, it feels intentional. It feels earned. And because it's not constant, it carries more weight. People begin to notice it more, appreciate it more, and respond to it more deeply. There's also a strong sense of self-respect behind this behavior. He values his time and doesn't feel the need to fill every moment with interaction. He's comfortable stepping back, focusing on his own priorities, and allowing space to exist. That space often creates curiosity, because others are used to being chased, not chosen. Women in particular feel the difference immediately. There's no pressure, no overwhelming pursuit, no sense that he needs something from them. Instead, there's a calm, steady presence that engages when it matters and pulls back when it doesn't. And that balance makes his attention feel rare, genuine, and deeply attractive. Calm masculinity that feels safe yet powerful is a presence that doesn't need to announce itself. It's not loud, aggressive, or forceful. Instead, it's steady, composed, and deeply rooted in self-control. This kind of masculinity isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering oneself. A man who embodies this energy doesn't rely on intimidation or constant assertion to be respected. His strength is quiet but unmistakable. You can see it in how he carries himself, how he speaks with intention, and how he remains composed even in challenging situations. He doesn't get pulled into unnecessary conflict, yet there's no doubt that he can handle himself if needed. What makes this presence so powerful is the balance it creates. On one hand, there's a sense of safety. People feel at ease around him because he isn't unpredictable or emotionally volatile. He doesn't create tension or pressure. Instead, he allows others to relax, to be themselves without fear of judgment or sudden emotional reactions. On the other hand, there's an underlying strength that commands respect. It's not forced, it's felt. He sets boundaries without over-explaining. He knows when to speak and when to remain silent. And when he does take action, it's decisive and grounded, not reactive or impulsive. Women are naturally drawn to this combination because it offers both emotional security and masculine stability. They don't feel the need to guard themselves around him, yet they also recognize his strength. It's a rare blend, being gentle without being weak and strong without being harsh. This calm masculinity often comes with experience. It's shaped by lessons, by challenges faced and overcome, by learning that true power isn't about control over others, but control over oneself. And when a man reaches that point, his presence alone communicates something undeniable. He is both a place of peace and a force to be respected. There's a strange shift that happens over time, something most people don't talk about openly. While younger men often chase attraction, trying to prove themselves through looks, money, or attention, older men who truly understand themselves begin to attract without effort. It's not about appearance, status, or even charm in the traditional sense. It's something deeper, something quieter. Women don't just notice it, they feel it. And the truth is, women are naturally drawn to men over 60 who embody a specific energy, an energy that can't be faked, rushed, or copied. It's built through experience, through restraint, through knowing who you are without needing the world to confirm it. There's a calmness in a man who has nothing left to prove. You can see it in the way he speaks, measured, not rushed. You can feel it in the way he listens, present, not distracted. He's not trying to impress, and that's exactly what makes him impressive. Younger men often believe attraction comes from doing more, talking more, showing more, chasing harder. But a man over 60 who understands himself operates differently. He knows that presence outweighs performance. He doesn't fill silence out of nervousness. He allows it, owns it, and in that space, people lean in. Women are drawn to that stillness because it feels rare. It feels safe. Not safe in a boring way, but safe in a way that allows them to relax, to be themselves without pressure. His energy isn't chaotic or unpredictable, it's grounded. And in a world full of noise, that kind of grounding becomes magnetic. He doesn't react emotionally to everything. He observes first, responds with intention. There's control there, not suppression, but mastery. And that emotional discipline creates trust without him needing to ask for it. Another thing that sets him apart is how he values his time. He doesn't give attention freely just to gain approval. His attention is earned, and because of that, it carries weight. When he chooses to engage, it feels intentional, not desperate. Women can sense that difference instantly. He's lived enough to understand that chasing validation is a losing game. So he stops playing it. Instead, he focuses on living a life that fulfills him. His interests, his routines, his purpose. And ironically, that's what draws people in. Because he's not trying to pull anyone toward him. Yet people come anyway. There's also a quiet strength in his restraint. He doesn't overshare. He doesn't try to entertain constantly. He allows mystery to exist. And that mystery creates curiosity. It invites others to want to know more, rather than giving everything away up front. And perhaps most importantly, he's comfortable with himself. Not perfect, not flawless, but accepting. That self-acceptance removes the need for approval. And when a man no longer needs approval, his entire energy shifts. He becomes steady, centered, and naturally attractive in a way that doesn't rely on effort. Women aren't just drawn to how he looks or what he has. They're drawn to how he makes them feel in his presence. Calm, seen, unpressured. And that feeling is something very few men ever learn to create.